Well, in more United Nations biased against Israel, I know a lot of people think Israel has carte blanche on everything. It's not really that way. And this is so hypocritical. They had out of 9 official documents produced from the UN's Annual Commission on the Status of Women's Report, only one of the UN's 193 members were mentioned in regards to ongoing infringement of women's rights. They named Israel. In what Jerusalem states is another case of UN bias. And I have to state that is absolutely correct. It's like, I don't know how the internet, even sometimes on the internet, they say Obama is a pawn of Israel, and I could see he's more of a pawn of Islam, for crying out loud. I don't even understand how people are coming up with the logic, but that's it. That's the internet. But as far as Israel having a horrendous human rights agenda against women, that's ludicrous. And of the nations that are included in the UN, 193 nations, you got Bangladesh. Have they been fair and square with women? China? No. Congo, Democratic Republic of the Congo, besides Egypt, Guyana, also Guyana and Ghana, India, Iran, okay, they weren't mentioned. Only Israel, just Israel, Kenya, Niger, Pakistan, the Russian Federation. I know people are going to be getting mad at me for that, but I'm telling you, it's not too good for women over there either. Sudan, Tajikistan, Uganda, Zimbabwe. I mean, I don't understand how people are coming up. Well, it's the UN. What do you expect, right? They really hate Israel. That's what it's coming down to. But maybe there is some evidence that women are being mistreated. Here's one right here. It looks like she's being spanked. I don't know. It's just kidding around. I thought that was a pretty funny picture. A heart, and I love the IDF, so we are strong. But anyway, for the most part, it's like the ones that are condemning Israel or the ones that have been left off. The only one that was mentioned in any of your reports was Israel. Look how many countries were left off this report. Look how many people were standing there in judgment of Israel on this issue that got all kinds of violations of women's rights. Here's an Israeli woman. Do you see her walking around in a burqa? Having her head down, having permission that they need to drive a car. I can't wear makeup or whatever it is. I can't do this. I can't do any kind of activities because I'm a woman. I need permission to go someplace and ask my brother or my father or my husband. No. These are the countries that were judging it. These are the countries that were judging Israel. So I mean, say, if you could say there's some kind of problem, you could say there's a problem in every single country in the world on something, on every single issue there is. There is no country in the world that is 100% pristine. But look at the relativity. Look at the difference of the ones that are judging and judging the judged. And the only one that was singled out for violating women's rights on an ongoing basis out of the 193 member nations was Israel. That was it. And they left out Iran, they left out Kenya, they left out India, they left out Guyana, Ghana, Egypt, Congo, China, Bangladesh, Kazakhstan, Kenya, Pakistan, Sudan, Uganda, Zimbabwe. Really, very much extreme, practices going on here. Sometimes backed by what the guise of religion. But what the hell can I tell you? It's ridiculous. But it's become like, it looks like the pendulum has swung against Israel, because back in, I think in the mid '60s or the late '60s, it seemed like Israel could do no wrong. And you were sticking out like a sore thumb if you were criticizing Israel. And Israel should be criticized for certain things. Should not just go ahead and carte blanche, rubber stamp every damn thing that Israel does. Or, it's almost like, well, you know what it is, too. I mean, it's almost like not everybody in Israel agrees with what the government does. That's another thing. But the pendulum has swung so far to the opposite direction. It's like Jews in Israel are being blamed for every freaking thing in the world now. I was a little, if this was back in the 60s, where everybody had a knee-jerk reaction that Israel can do no wrong, I'd probably be the only one sticking out criticizing Israel. But as of right now, I'm going against the grain, and I'm sticking up for Israel because they are being treated unfairly in the globe. I'll guarantee you that, despite what people want to say, want to think, and they say, nah. Okay, so a lot of these people are throwing stones. They're far worse. They've done far, far, far worse than anything the Israelis ever did. And, women in Israel have far, far, far more rights than these countries that have condemned Israel in the UN. So, that's the reality situation. Probably not going to be a popular video on YouTube because I already see the way things are going on, the popular opinion, but I don't seek popular opinion. I only seek to put out what's true. And, I'll take hits for it, so whatever. So, that's just the way it goes. But, I have to state that, there's no place in the world that's perfect, period. And, actually, the way I look at it, of the countries over in the Middle East, I think Israel is about, if I had to go live in a country in the Middle East, or one of those countries, there's no doubt in my mind where I would go. If I had to live in one of the countries in the Middle East, I would live in Israel over any of those other countries. I'll guarantee you that right now. That I would guarantee you. So I don't see why they're being condemned and these other countries are not being condemned. It's amazing. It's amazing. So, overall, actually, women's rights in Israel are pretty damn good. So, and I don't know, sometimes it gets a little ludicrous with this, women's rights, this one's rights, and that one's rights. And, it's almost like, just use a little common sense. And, I mean, sometimes, it's obvious that there's differences between the genders. So some women can't do what a male can do. I mean, you're not going to be, lifting up steel girders and putting rivets in it or something like that unless you're, one of the few that can do that. But if you're built slightly, you're not going to be able to do that. So, I mean, that's just the way it goes. But, it's a matter of Israel actually is one of the few countries around that, well, it's the only one that I think in the Middle East that has actually treated women fairly. But they're being condemned. It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. The judged are far worse than the one that's being judged. The judges are far more guilty of the crimes they are singling out Israel for. It's ridiculous. It's beyond ludicrous.